Good morning, everybody. This is lesson 4 from chapter 4, using corresponding parts of congruent triangles. The objective of this lesson is to use the congruence of triangles and their corresponding sides to prove the parts of triangles are congruent. To warm up for this lesson, we will start solving the question in here. The question is telling us, is triangle ABC congruent to triangle GHI? How do you know? Now, going back to the lessons 4.2 and 4.3, we've learned 4 postulates to prove the congruence of triangles. The postulates were side, 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 and side, angle, side. This is in lesson 4.2. And lesson 4.3, it was A, side, A, which is angle, side, angle, and angle, angle, side. Now we will look at the 2 triangles which they talk about. He said, is ABC, so we are talking about this triangle, with GHI, this is the other triangle. Now, he said to me, or he marked AB is congruent to DE, but he didn't mention any side of GHI, so I cannot consider this. BC is marked with 2 lines, which is not mentioned here in the second and the third triangle, which is GHI. So I don't have any information about the sides. So can I prove any of these postulates to say that those triangles are congruent? No, I have no clue about the relation between the sides in the triangle ABC and the triangle GHI. When we are talking about triangle congruence, we have to see any of those postulates clear. So you should see the mark in the same mark in each of the triangles you are talking about between the corresponding sides or angles. Now, what's the idea of this lesson? The idea of this lesson is telling you, after you prove that, for example, the 3 sides are the 3 corresponding sides are congruent between the first triangle and the second triangle, what is the result after this? We will see. We'll start by problem number 1. He's saying proving parts of triangles congruent. We will look at those triangles. The triangles are KBC and ACB. He gave me some information. I want to highlight them for you. He said that the angle KBC, this is the angle, okay, congruent to ACB, this is the angle. So I have an information about the first angle. The second angle is angle K congruent to angle A. Now he mentioned 2 angles. So I am talking about any of these 2 postulates. I am either choosing between ASA or AAS. Who decides this? The position of the side that is in the figure. The position of the side, is it the congruent side between the 2 angles or in the side of one of the angles? Look at the figure in here. Did he put you any mark on the sides? No, but I have the common side, which is CB. This is the side, right? So I need to look at it. I have A and C, and beside the C with one mark, I have this side, and I have B and K, and beside the B, which is with 1 mark, I have the side. So which theorem from those we are talking about? Yes, Which theorem? Definitely we are talking about AAS. Why is that? Because the side is not in between the two angles. Is not in between the two congruent angles. So I say yes. The BC is congruent to the BC for reflexive. The KBC is equal to angle ACB. This is given. And the third angle, the other angle, which is angle K, congruent to angle A. So I have two angles and one side. This side is the common side in between the two triangles, and it is not between the two congruent angles. It's from B and from C, which are the same angles. And this is what we spoke about in lesson 4.3. Okay, I proved that the two triangles are congruent. What is the result of the congruence of the two triangles? The result that every single angle in the triangle is congruent to its corresponding one, and the sides are as well what? Congruent. So I can say that the left angle is corresponding to the left angle, right? And I can say that the left sides, that this side, let me just make, that this side is congruent to this side, and this side is congruent to this side. So can I prove that KB is congruent to AC? Yes. KB is congruent to AC. Why is that? After you finish proving using one of the postulates, so all the other sides that were not mentioned in the question, they are congruent. Let's go to the got it to make the understanding deeper. Now, I have this question. He gave me some information. I will highlight them with you to see they are congruent and with which postulates and what is the result of the congruence between them. He said that CA is congruent to AE. This is the first side. BA is congruent to AD. Okay, I have two sides. So I am choosing either between the SAS. That's it. I need to find an angle which is, I don't have another postulate. I don't have another postulate that has two sides. I have either SSS and I don't have the third side. I have AAS and I don't have two angles. I have ASA and I don't have two angles as well. So the only postulate that I can use is SAS. Can I do so? Let's see. Can I find an angle in between those two sides? Look at the figure. Can I? Yes, this is the angle. So the angle CAB is congruent to which angle? EAD. By which property? By the vertical angles. I can say that they are vertical angles. Saying that the BA is congruent to DA and the CA is congruent to EA, and both of those using what? Those are given. And CAB is congruent to EAD. They are vertical angle. So the two triangles are congruent. Okay? So what is the result? Every other corresponding angle is congruent. So I can say that this angle is congruent to this angle, and this angle with the 3 lines congruent to this angle. Okay, what about the sides? The sides are the same. If he told me that CA is congruent to AE, BA is congruent to AD, what is the left side? This side. So this side, CB, is congruent to ED. And in this way, we proved that the three sides are congruent and the 3 corresponding angles are congruent. So I can say that angle C is congruent to angle E. So the steps of solving is to check first the congruence of the triangles, to say what is the postulate that you are using, and as a result, based on the congruence of the triangles, you say that corresponding angles on sides are congruent. Okay, let's go to problem number 2. Here, problem number 2, it's a word problem. They're talking about a Greek philosopher. He developed a method to measure the distances to a ship at sea. He made a compass. This is the drawing in here. Okay. He wants us to prove that RS is congruent to RL. RS is congruent to RL. Here is L. It's not very shown in the drawing. Here is L. Now he gave me 2 informations, that the RTS, which is this angle on the top, let me choose another color, is congruent to this angle. So he gave me 1 angle. And he said as well that this is a right angle and this is a right angle. So I'm talking about 2 angles. Okay, so I'm using either ASA or AAS. Let's see. Now, I have a common side, which is this one in here. So I'm talking about a side in between 2 angles. So which postulate I will choose? Yes, I will say that the triangle is, or the pair of triangles are congruent, which are triangle TRS, the first triangle, is congruent to triangle TRL using the ASA postulate. What is the result? That every single corresponding side in the first triangle to the side in the second triangle is congruent. So I can say that this side is congruent to this side. Okay, what else? I can say that this side is congruent to this side. And as well, I can say that this angle is congruent to this angle. But he asked only about SR and RL. So I can say that the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Let's do the got it. The got it is telling you, given AB is congruent to AC. Let's highlight them directly. This is AB and this is AC. So I have a side. I want you to think in this way. While highlighting them, make sure to try to help yourself finding the suitable postulate. If you found the suitable postulates, you would be able to mark the related sides and find the congruence in between the triangles in an easy way. M is the midpoint of BC. What is the meaning of M is a midpoint of BC? What did this information give us? That BM is congruent to MC. What else? So I have 2 sides. Did he mention any angles? No, he didn't mention any angle. Did he mention any other side? No, but I have the common side in here. So which postulate I would be able to use? Think with me. Yes, it is side, side, side. How to prove or how to write the two-column proof? I write it for you in details here, so you would be able to build your own proof. I will say that PM, the side is congruent to CM. This is what given. The second one, I would say that AB is congruent to CA, and this is as well given. The third point, I would say that AM is congruent to AM using the reflexive property. As a result, I say triangle AMB is congruent to triangle AMC by the SSS postulate. What is the result of the congruence that we found? Thus, the angle AMB is congruent to angle AMC. Why? Because corresponding angles in congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, so the steps to solve: to highlight the parts that he gives you, to guess what is the postulate that he used. After you prove the congruence between the triangles, you relate the corresponding sides and angles and show that they are congruent. Now we will solve one question from the lesson check. This is to do more practicing on this lesson, although I feel that it's very easy for you, but let's see. Name the postulate or theorem that you can use to show that triangles are congruent. Then explain why the statement is true. First of all, I need to look at those two triangles. The triangles in here, he highlighted for me that this side is congruent to this side, and this angle is congruent to this angle, and I have the middle part in here. So I have side, angle, side. So they are congruent by side, angle, side. Okay, I proved the congruence between, the two triangles. So I will say that as a result of the congruence between the two triangles used SAS, the corresponding sides in the two triangles are congruent. The corresponding angles in the two triangles are congruent. So I can say easily that EA is congruent to AM, and I can say that this angle this angle is congruent to this angle, and I'll use another color to show that this angle is congruent to this angle. Okay, now let's move to do another kind of question. We will look at the question in here. Let's look in here. This is question number 6. He wants me to prove that AB is congruent to CB. I need to study the congruence between them. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you so you can easily do it. This side is common, right or not? Okay, so this is the first side. What else? I have an angle in here congruent to this angle, and I have an angle here congruent to this angle, and the side in the middle of them. So it is angle, side, angle, angle, side, angle. So I can say that they are congruent using angle, side, angle. You can add to those given information that The third one is BD. BD is equal to BD using the reflexive property, BD equals to BD using the reflexive property, okay? And as a result of this, corresponding angles in congruent triangles are congruent. So AB is congruent to CB. AB is congruent to CB. Now, here is your homework pages. This is the first page, and this is the second page. I'm sure that the lesson was easy for today. Your understanding for this lesson depends on your understanding for lesson 4.2.43. If you have any problem in assigning or finding the postulate that you need to work on, you will need to revise lesson 4.2 and 4.3 to be able to understand this lesson. Thank you.